Hello students, welcome to the next session in the distributed systems. See, already in the previous session we have discussed about the distributed object based systems, whereas we have three over there. The first one is Corba, which was covered in the previous session. Just go through that if you have any doubts in that. And the next one is the COM. So where this COM in the general locations we call it as a COM, and in the distributed environment we call it as a DCOM over there, right? And the next one is a globe. Right, see, there are three types. So we have discussed with the first type. Now we are into the DCOM procedures. Now in this, the outline which we are going to discuss today is about the COM overview. Then we will be calling how the object model will be represented over there. Then with few services it can provide, and the communication model. Then the naming, fault tolerance and the security. In between we have the object references. So these object references and the procedures wherever we need will be with respect to the Java coding. I mean the object oriented coding over there, but we are not going to code over there, but we have to see how the objects can be called between the interfaces and the classes, all these kinds, right? Now distributed COM. See, coming to the distributed COM, it is first of all, COM is nothing but component object model. Now when we say distributed means DCOM it will be. Now what is the aim of this DCOM is nothing but, see, this DCOM is the first solution to provide your machine applications to move from one system to the other system. Means we don't have machine boundaries at all. See, whereas in the previous sessions whatever we have discussed, we have machine boundaries. If we have one process which can be executed over there, but with respect to the RPC's concept, we can call so and so procedure from one system to the other system kind of thing. But here the system itself, the communication itself will not be having the machine boundaries at all. Means we can perform a number of services by above the boundaries also, right? So this is the first aim of DCOM over there. Next, this is the first evolved solutions through Microsoft, right? So and then this is a first version, whatever the current version which we are discussing will be the NT based version systems. Like this can be executed, or else the service can be executed in the Windows environment also. And we have Active Directory parts, that is nothing but ActiveX parts also. And then we'll be comparing this DCOM some at few points in the Corba strategies also. Now what is this architecture we are going to say is, see, on the top layer whatever we have is with respect to the ActiveX, and the next OLE is nothing but object linking and embedding. Like nothing but we are going to take few services which are linked to our particular solution. See, if we need anything extra from the other source, we are going to go with the machine boundaries, across the machine boundaries, right? So we can go with that. So whenever we need a particular service, we can embed that into our system. Next one is linking. So if we want any document to be linked, whatever the .exe files, .object files, whatever we have, we can link over to our existing system. So we have OLE. So these are the three important points. Now DCOM is nothing but all the storages, all the interprocess communications, all the persistent references, object activations will be done in the COM environment, component object model. Now when we say distributed means when we are going beyond the machine boundaries. So there we need OLE and ActiveX also into the part of the DCOM overview, right? Now coming to the basic client server architecture. See, come here to the client machine. So when we have client machine, we have a service control manager over there, SCM. So whatever the service which we are asking to our server will be controlled by the SCM. Now SCM will take the input from the registry of the client machine. Then every client machine application will be again working with respect to the responses provided by the server. We know this point. Now when we are going out of the client machine, we are going to marshal our request, right? So we are going to marshal our proxy data. Like instead of giving our data, we will be embedding that, we will be encoding that with some other data, then we will be throwing into the network. Now in the network will be our server will be readily available. Now server will take what object the client is asking over there from the COM components. Now come here, whatever the object is ready, so we are going to operate with that object in the object server. Now the objects will be developed because objects are the entities of a particular class, right? So we need a class over there first of all. Now class object will be given as the request. That means the object will be provided as one of the requests asked by the client. Now this object through RMI or RPC concepts, we are going to execute that concept, right? Now while we are taking the data or else while we are giving the data in RPCs or RMIs, we use skeletons and stubs, right? So there we need a stub over there to accept the data from the client. Now when we are giving also, we need a marshal over there. See, proxy marshal is nothing but the object references are passed between different machines. So when we are giving different machines at the same time, we are going to have a number of proxies data. Now component object model, as we are just seen, we need an interface over there because this is a component object model, right? So we need an interface over there where that interface will be having all the data which are semantically arranged. That is what a function will be, right? A function is a set of self-contained block of elements. That is nothing but related objects will place together, right? So similarly, all the semantically related objects will place at one place. That is nothing but an interface. Now, every interface will be having an identifier, and every identifier will be located with respect to the given request get from the client. Now, locate a class first of all. So why to locate a class? Because an interface is nothing but it's a purely messages. I mean the methods will be non-concrete methods. There will be no definition in the methods, right? So when there is no methods, then who can give the definitions for that particular methods will be the class which takes that properties, right? So how to take that properties? By implementing. So we should locate a class which implements that particular interface, then we start initiating that class. So we have to give all the data definition parts and create the objects of that particular class, and then you start utilizing the class from server to the client. So that is what which happens every time in the client server, just we have seen over there, which acts along with this, right? So how an object can be created by the interfaces, then a class must implement that interface, and you must create an object for that particular class which implemented that interface. Then you have to throw the result of that particular object to the client side. These are the few services which are provided by the DCOM. See, nothing but collection. See, we are going to compare with the Corba with the DCOM. And we have Windows 2000 version, which is a previous version over there. Now, collection. Here we are going to go with the objects directly. Now, in the Corba we use queries. Here no need of that, because at the time of object classifications itself, we will be going to take the prepared statements over there. So do you have the prepared statement knowledge? So we can go with that every time. Next, concurrency. Here the concurrency will be with the threads. A part of the threads will be available in every process, where every thread will be executed concurrently. Now, transactions are to be committed or recovered by this concept. Here, automatic transactions, depending on the situations at that moment, it will take the actions. Now, event, complex events, notifications. Obviously, notifications are, if anything happens, immediately we have to notify. So that is what is the event. Now, externalization. See, externalization is nothing but we are going to marshal the utilities, whatever we have. Similar thing happens here. Now, life cycle. Life cycle here depends on the class factories, where we have the JIT compiler over there. So all the activations we need for particular compiler to enable so and so factory, class factories we need. I mean that may be anything, singleton type, whatever type we have, all the types should be activated. Next, licensing, we need this with respect to the factories, whatever we are calling. Next, naming. In DCOM we call naming as a monikers. Next, properties. No required, because with respect to the monikers and the class, every class will be having the properties, so no need of extra properties to be given over there. Now structured storage, as we all know this, relationships are none. Along with the security, here we need the authorization also. Time, so it will be activated at the time of that particular situation. Now coming to the communication model, it is very easy. As we all know, in the Corba we have gone through the producer consumer communication model. Similarly here also we will be having the producer consumer, the supplier consumer concept itself. Supplier will be keep on updating the data, and the consumer will be keep on taking the data. That is what is a Corba model also done with the communication model, right? Now here we need a remote method calls. Okay, so when we have a particular object to be called, immediately we will do remote method calls over there by synchronizing with the other systems also. Now when this takes place, immediately push style method will be activated in the communication model of the DCOM. Now what happens here, see, supplier will be having an object class over there, then we have to enable that object class, invoke that object class, then the consumer will be taking that particular output of that event. Right, so that is what, see, supplier and the consumer. Supplier is keep on updating the data, or is if you have any interfaces, the class will be taking that interface by implementing, then it will go with the object creation, then it will highlight the events. So whatever the events we have, we will be storing in the event registry over there. From the event registry, the consumer will be invoking the data. Next, these are nothing but object references, as we have just before said about the parameter passing, right? So similarly here the processes, how the processes will take the passing object references. See, object references, here it will be very simple, right? Because anyhow we are working with the direct class objects. Now it is very simpler that every interface which is locally enabled can be taken with respect to the passed by pointers, right? So here we will be taking the data directly to the object stub. From the object stub, even the process A and B are maintained at the object server. Now the process A is communicating with the object server. Similarly, process B also communicates with the same object stub over there. Now how these two objects are taking same object into the reference. So this can be possible because process A is in the different application and process B is in the different client applications, we say. Now these two can utilize the main server object stub whenever they require. Now naming. So naming is nothing but monikers. See, coming to the moniker is nothing but a data which is associated with the particular application. So as we all know, naming is nothing but an identifier given to a program or a file system, we call that. Now in the DCOM, we say moniker in place of naming over there. So naming can be done in the DCOM with respect to the monikers. Now who can do this moniker? Moniker will be associating with the data. Whatever the application or program we have, they can be stored, they can be retrieved, they can be updated, whatever we can do with respect to the moniker concept, right? Now, all these are very, very important. SCM is the service control manager which can load all the classes and objects, concepts and everything. Moniker is the first important thing which is going to work with the real objects, means every object to be named, right? So every real object which we have in the outlive to call with the client or server to something else to be needed, then we have to go with the moniker concept over there. Now active directory is nothing but which directory at that moment, at that moment which directory is associated with the service. So that is what is an active directory. So we call that as a domain controllers also sometimes. When we are discussing about the DNS queries also, we use the active directories concepts. Here we have a lightweight directory access protocol also to enable our data. Now the fault tolerance is very simple because we are going to work with n number of supported systems over there. Every transaction will be committed automatically here, right? So there is no need of particular fault tolerance. Now security, coming to the security concept, here we have all the data which is packed with the integrity concept and also with the authentications and authorizations. So this is what is about the DCOM. In the DCOM we have another point in the security, which is we have types of impersonations. See, anonymous is nothing but we can't understand who are communicating with us. Identify means the server can know that who is the client which are communicating to me. Now impersonate means whenever required the server will be in place of that client and will be acting, and this can be possible in the local systems only. Coming to the delegate, in the remote systems, in place of client, server will be taking the action. So this is all about the DCOM and COM and the CORBA compatibilities. So if you have any doubts, please be free to contact anytime. Thank you.